The United States debt ceiling debate refuses to settle. President Joe Biden and Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are all set to meet now that President Joe Biden has wrapped up the G7 summit. They are going to be talking on how to avert a catastrophic situation, a U.S. default situation. The latest round of talks comes at a time when it's running completely short. Remember, differences continue and there is the June 1st deadline that looms large. Both sides continue to grapple for political advantage as well. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, however, has maintained that he is very hopeful about reaching a decision. The deadline is at the June 1st, like I said, to raise the debt ceiling is precariously close. The talks between the Democrats and Republicans have unfortunately resulted in a deadlock until now. There is palpable frustration that President Joe Biden has also said in a statement that demands of the GOP lawmakers remain unacceptable. Now, if congressional lawmakers cannot make a decision quickly, the world's largest economy could be at the risk of defaulting on its debt.
U.S. President Joe Biden is set to meet Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Monday to try to get closer to a deal on the debt ceiling, following what McCarthy described as a productive phone call. Biden told reporters upon his return to the White House from Japan that the call went well, and McCarthy struck a more positive tone on the issue on Sunday, despite no sign of a final agreement being hammered out.
What I'm looking at are where our differences are and how could we solve those. And I felt that part was productive. But look, there's no agreement. We're still apart. The agreement would be, let's get our teams back together so everybody clearly understands what we're talking about, what they're talking about.
Talks had stalled as both sides fell back to calling the other side's position extremist. Biden, who was in Hiroshima for the Group of Seven summit, said before the call that Republicans' demands were unacceptable. Democrats have been pushing to hold spending steady at this year's levels, while Republicans want to return to 2022 levels. Last month, the Republican-led House passed legislation that would cut government spending by 8%. Democrats have said that would mean average cuts of 22% to education and law enforcement, a figure top Republicans haven't disputed. In any case, they're on a tight schedule to strike a deal before June, with risk of default already putting markets on edge.
Having spoken to Schumer, Leader Schumer, I was giving him 7 days. He told me he doesn't really probably need that much time. We need to post a bill to whatever we agree to. It takes some time to write it. We have to have it 3 days, 72 hours, before we could vote on it. Then it would go to the Senate.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said June 1st was a hard deadline for raising the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling, lest the country risk triggering a default, sparking chaos in financial markets and spiking interest rates.